Okay, what's up? Spiritual people are awesome. Have you noticed that? They're deep, thoughtful, caring people. But there's some spiritual people that use spiritual tools and religious tools and experiences to avoid the deeper, true work that's going to have them become more of an empowered, empathic person. So in this video, I'm going to cover the 7 signs of a spiritual narcissist. I'll explain kind of what that term means. And then we're going to talk about the one sign and the one thing that they need to do to actually get out of the spiritual narcissist place. Because you might be in love with a person like this, or they might be a family member, or you might be in a community where there's some vibe like this going on, because you want to steer clear. All right? Okay. First sign of the spiritual narcissist is they act like they know how to use the tools. They have the lingo that is into personal development, therapy. They have all personal development language. I'm into growth. I go to therapy. Yep, I do ayahuasca. I do all the things. So they sound like they are very self-aware. That's what it sounds like. All right. But under stress, they do what they've always done. And under stress, meaning under stressful relationship dynamics like a marriage or a family relationship, they do what they've always done. They blame, they don't take any responsibility, they can't empathize with another person, and they create a fight because they're so defended. All right. In my other videos, I've talked about what a narcissist, a covert narcissist, or a person with borderline personality disorder is defending against. And remember, it's abandonment, depression. It's annihilatory for them to face what they need to face to develop and to grow. And so they use spiritual tools to avoid that deeper work. Number 2 of the spiritual narcissists is they don't have successful long-term relationships, generally speaking. They're often in open relationships, or they move from relationship to relationship, because relationships and long-term partnership in particular, in case you haven't noticed, demands that you develop yourself from a little child into a grown-up. And we grow up all our wounded parts in a long-term relationship, and that's pretty powerful. That's why I like relationship as a path to personal development and empowerment. They don't want to do that work. Anytime the going gets tough in a long-term relationship, they'll resort to the typical tools of blame, finger pointing, not taking any ownership, etc. Sign number 3 is they recreate their family of origin even though they have all the tools. They grew up often in a really challenging family environment that was really harsh. Or once in a while, an exhibitionist narcissist grew up in a family that just praised them over and over and over, and they began to believe that they're perfect, that they're God. That is definitely a possibility. But most of the time, people grew up in traumatic environments where the caregiving was subpar, suboptimal, and it created a division, a strategic self that had to defend against their true self because their true self was so disgusting and annihilatory. They will do anything to defend against that. So unconsciously, they create their family of origin, which is good for their growth, but they don't want to grow. So they, pull out the artillery and blame everybody. Number 4, fourth sign is that they lack empathy. Really hard for them to put themselves in your shoes and feel what it's like to be you. They might be able to act like that and fake it for a little while, but again, marry them, stay in a long-term relationship with them, they can't do it. Their empathy, if it's an act, the partner on the receiving end of that knows it's an act, and it gets very frustrating. And so you can't keep up the show. It's a bunch of charades. And the spiritual narcissist tries to put on a show, but they don't want to work that hard. So they eventually fail at this, and then the relationship implodes. 5th sign is they're afraid, deeply afraid and terrified of the deeper attachment work required to become a truly empowered spiritual being. Instead, they like getting high off experiences, spiritual experiences like a bunch of ayahuasca ceremonies, psychedelics, group experiences, group workshops, personal growth retreats, spiritual retreats where there's a lot of like meditation and breathing and breath work. And so they love getting high, and they can't integrate their experiences, and then they don't do, again, the developmental work required. They sidestep that by all these fun experiences, and they often act out in those experiences. They sleep with other people in the community. They'll power trip people and use personal growth tools to sort of get what they want, which is maybe a partner to like them, to get noticed, to get power within an organization or a spiritual community. So they love the Burning Man and the latest medicine or whatever they're using because they don't have to do the deeper developmental work. Okay. Sixth sign is they can't integrate their experiences because they, again, have a defended sense of self that they're terrified to face. Seventh sign is and what I've been talking about throughout this entire video, is they don't do the developmental work required to become an empowered human. They're avoiding and using all the tools to defend against this abandonment depression, or as James Masterson calls it, or just the annihilatory feelings of being a helpless infant that's, is terrified that it's going to get abandoned and rejected by the mother usually, or by the caregivers. And to really develop, you actually have to go into that, feel it as a somatic experience over and over to grow, basically. These people are like little wounded infants or toddlers that never grew internally. So they created a whole architecture and a facade to make it look like they're a high-functioning human. But again, deep down, they're very, very young, incredibly compromised, and deeply fearful. The good news is sometimes a psychedelic experience can pop this open. But without the proper trauma therapy and ongoing developmental work, usually it comes out sideways and starts leaking out in a number of hurtful ways to themselves and other people. So how do we know if they're changing? Again, you start to see an adult. If you're in a marriage with these kind of people, they start to act like a mutual, respectful friend. They start to act like they can take responsibility for their experience. They can own when they've hurt you. They can truly, genuinely empathize with your feelings and your experience. They're emotionally literate, and they actually feel emotions. They feel tears. They feel angry. They can communicate that directly with you. And that only happens in the context of a long-term relationship like a marriage, or it can happen in long-term therapy that's happening like twice a week, once a week, for years. And that might even involve some group therapy, because they need reflections from other people about how they're showing up. And, it could happen in a men's group or a women's group over many years with really solid group facilitation by the group leader. This is how we humans develop. We need to develop relationally. And the spiritual narcissist doesn't want to do that. They want to use all the jargon and the tools to make it look like they're developing when really they're just avoiding. I hope this video has been helpful. Leave a comment below if it is. If you know someone like this, forward it, or you feel like you've been a part of a community. We want to keep our eyes out here, but there's two things we can do: is set really, really ferocious boundaries with these kind of people, or we can get the hell away from them, or from very far away, we can have compassion for their plight because they're in a deep struggle with themselves deep down inside. If they really, really get honest and they can get way down in there and stay down in there and grow, it's hard work for them. And they feel pretty abandoned and sad and alone in there. But don't make it your job to rescue them or fix them, because they've got to want to develop and grow as humans, and that's hard to do. Okay, subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, and stay tuned for the next video. Thanks for being a subscriber.